It's all on your head. Sa mindset lang yan. Dasal lang. Dasal lang talaga. Ako nga nung araw, nakaya ko yan eh. Why do you think there's a big generational difference with how the Gen X and the baby boomers view mental health, which is completely dissimilar to how we, the millennials and Gen Zs, put a premium on it nowadays? Yung mga terms like triggers, therapy, coping mechanisms, and all the related jargon about mental health suddenly became a thing, especially in the recent decade. Here's my explanation on why our parents and grandparents can seem to see eye to eye with us in regard to our experience with mental health. It's not like anxiety, depression, all the other mental conditions all of a sudden started popping out only in the 21st century. It has long existed, and the older generation for sure na-experience nila to. So bakit di nila gets? The triggers and causes for these have always been there. Work stress, financial problem, heartbreaks, failures, abuse, imposter syndrome, marami. And these are all perennial human experiences across all generations, past, present, and future. But our parents, pati mga lolo't lola natin, did not have the words or ideas yet back then on how to describe their negative thoughts and feelings. And it is only with the millennials and Gen Zs where the concepts and even the vocabulary for mental health was enriched. And this is not just because it's a trendy topic nowadays or kasi bendang-benta yung mga dark humor ngayon. But more than ever, I think there has been a huge increase in studies and researches about these issues, making it more accessible to everyone, especially to us. But that is not the main argument of this video. Kasi lahat naman ng scientific endeavor will always have better understanding as the years go by, eventually, sa robotics, medicine, and even, of course, human psychology. But there is something exclusive with the younger generation which explains bakit ibang-iba yung level of appreciation natin sa mental health discussion compared to the older generations. And this is what my video wants to flesh out. The nuances, the subtle details, yung mga kailangan nating tingnan. Saying na mas alam na natin to kasi mas dumami lang research is kind of an oversimplification. Masyadong mababaw naman yung ganung statement. There's got to be a bigger reason why our social media feed and the TV shows targeting young adults now are filled with topics about sanity, psychology concepts, or coping mechanisms, and yes, even the self-replicating memes na sinishare natin, making fun of how broken we all are, merong mas deeper reason behind that. And this is, it was never a priority of the older generation. So sinabi ko nga na nagkaroon ng increase of literature and wider access to information about these issues. But I think it's not because nagkaroon lang ng organic interest yung mga tao to study this later on in their life. Look back in the time, maybe 5 to 6 decades ago, what was the universal goal of everybody? Mula sa lolo't lola, mama at papa natin. It is to become really, really productive and successful. To get ahead with life. Nagkaroon ng economic depression, so they have to get back on their feet. We've gone through a world war, so we have to rebuild society. And locally, Filipinos just ousted a dictator, so baby boomers and Gen X welcomed the free world. The agenda of economic recovery was such a big priority. At kasabay nito, ang road to industrialization, na liberalize ang market, and all the advancement brought about by globalization, they have opened a lot of work opportunities. And all of these things contributed to making this strong narrative. A responsible adult is a productive and a financially stable person. Yun lang yung primary definition ng personhood ng mga older generation. That's their definition of value. But it is with that exact reason na na-overlook on how people should be taking care of their mental health during their busy days on their 9-to-5 job. One simple proof of this is on how most labor rights group half a century ago, when they were fighting for workers' rights, it was not yet considered a big important thing to have provisions for employees and their mental health. I mean, sa Philippines pa nga lang, we only passed our mental health law last 2018. Ngayon lang tayo nagkakaroon ng discourse kung ano ba yung mga kailangan nating dagdag. Kaya merong proposed bill ngayon na 5-day mental wellness leave. And syempre, hindi naman exclusive sa Philippines yung ganitong problem. In an old study of the World Health Organization about mental health legislation, back in 2003, 25% of countries, wala silang national law about mental health. And of the countries naman na merong ganitong national legislation, kalahati nun na isabatas lang after 1990. So the emergence of the discourse about mental health obviously came out late. And another supporting evidence about this late development can be extracted from our school experience. In my memory, back in elementary and high school days, very surface level lang yung pagturo sa amin ng topics about this mental health. It's just a basic definition of these conditions and mostly yung mga common mental illnesses lang yung na-cover. Which is ironic because multiple studies have already shown that treating mental health should be top priority. I mean, if it's going to impact our lives this much, then dapat naman talaga merong more focus about understanding these issues. Well, sino ba yung nag-formulate ng lesson plan? Who wrote and authored the educational materials? Who were the instructors during our school days? The Gen X and the baby boomers. And I am not here to crucify and blame them. This is more of a critique of the society they were born in. Somehow, they are victims as well. In the majority of their life years, these people in the older age bracket were not equipped enough with mental health education to help them grasp this sensitive topic. And it's no surprise that after years and years of cultivating this work mindset and culture, what we now have are parents and grandparents who most likely experienced burnout, anxiety, and depression at one point in their younger years, but they did not have the vocabulary and concepts to label them and even address them. What they just did is face it head on, or worse, baka in-ignore lang nila. Kaya ganun siguro yung mga recommended action nila sa atin, na sikmurain na lang, na itulog lang, or baliwalain mo lang kasi nakaya naman nila dati. But they do not know unaddressed and unresolved mental health issues bring spillover effects to how they raise their respective families and how they treat other people as well. Kaya siguro nila na-disregard or na-underestimate tuwing nag-open up yung mga kanilang anak about these invisible illnesses. Although probably they don't mean any harm. Still, not taking it seriously is not making a conducive environment for people who are mentally unwell. In fact, when I opened up to my mom that I was diagnosed with adult ADHD back in 2017, her first reaction was, "Imposible yan, you're a smart kid." I did not expect and I was so surprised with her reaction. Especially since the keyword that I used is diagnosed. So hindi ko siya gawa-gawa lang. I sought professional help for assessment. And if I were to share this to my peers of the same age bracket, people would have handled it more delicately and with more sensitivity. So of course, I grabbed the opportunity to educate her that ADHD have different presentations, and just because someone seemed to be carrying it well for the last 2 decades, what she might have witnessed is that someone was unknowingly discovering his own coping mechanisms for the things that he needs. And I am confident I am not alone in this experience, where it is us, the younger people, who become the resource person or the starter of conversation to enlighten the older members of our family about mental health. Or on the other side of the coin, unfortunately, there are some younger people who are dealing with mental health problems and are being left misunderstood. But there is no use to dwell in the past. There have been many recent efforts to rectify that. What's most important is we are here now. Most of us, millennials and Gen Zs, are in our prime years, and eventually we will occupy positions of power and we will have the ability to have institutional, cultural, and even mindset changes. And this video of mine and many of the videos on my channel as well, this is my contribution in the discourse. Because we all know what decades of avoidance of talking about this topic has resulted into. It's not good at all. So Andrew Best here, walking you through the thought process why I ended up having this conclusion. Very critical ang context that we operate on, and sometimes it must be viewed in a timeline. Also, what you just heard is social issues and self-development sprinkled somewhere within this video. You have to consume the video holistically. But if you also want to see my content with creative delivery, then go and check my shared word playlist. It's filled with artistic interpretations of these topics. Because one helpful way to make people understand these topics more is if we can talk about it creatively. The link will be featured at the end of the video. So go and explore the other videos on my channel, and if you like or agree to at least 2 of them, then I hope you can consider subscribing. Every single subscription is a form of encouragement for me to produce videos like this, and all of my topics are covering these 4 pillars. Well, hopefully what you just learned here could help you have a better communication process for your loved ones and friends about this very sensitive yet important topic. I know my audience could highly relate to this because we have a shared experience and magka-generation naman tayo. So thank you for watching and bye!